Hello everyone, welcome to today's story. Tonight, we step into a tale where silence carries more weight than words, and love is tested in its most fragile form. Tuna's baby Henry was taken away by her ex-mother-in-law, and only the police can help bring him back. But can law and love join hands to rescue an innocent child? Will Alex and Tuna find Henry before it's too late? Can a grandmother's desperate love ever justify her actions? And when past wounds reopen, is forgiveness still possible? Stay with us until the very end. And if you want more stories filled with drama, emotion, and truth, don't forget to subscribe and help us reach 1,000 followers. The room felt carved from silence, broken only by Tuna's sobs. Her voice trembled as she spoke Henry's name, as though repeating it might summon him back. Alex stood close, his hand firm on her shoulder, his eyes carrying the weight of fear disguised as calm. Then, the measured footsteps of the police officers filled the space, their presence steady, like anchors in a storm. One officer asked her to recount everything. Her words stumbled, painting the fragile minutes between leaving for firewood and returning to an empty cradle. Each pause cut deeper into the air. Alex added what he knew, his tone low, clipped, each word pressed with urgency. The officers listened, not interrupting, their notebooks quiet witnesses to despair. "Do you suspect anyone?" the older officer asked. The question hung in the air. Tuna lowered her gaze, the memory of Jiang Ti-Dieu rising like an old wound. The name escaped her lips in a whisper, soaked with fear and hesitation. The officer's expression hardened, recognition sparking. Alex's jaw clenched. The suspicion had found a shape. The decision was made quickly. "We'll start from there," the younger officer said. His voice carried the gravity of duty, yet softened with empathy. They prepared to leave, urging Tuna to gather strength for the search. As dusk deepened, shadows stretched across the fields. The wind stirred through the bamboo, echoing like faint whispers of Henry's cries. Every heartbeat felt like sand slipping through a fragile glass. For Tuna and Alex, this was no longer about waiting. It was the beginning of pursuit, an urgent race between love and loss. The police car moved slowly through narrow roads, headlights slicing through the gathering dark. Tuna sat in the back seat beside Alex, her hands clenched tightly in her lap. She pressed her forehead against the window, eyes searching the fields and houses they passed, as if Henry's cry might break through the night. Alex whispered reassurances, though his own heart felt like a stone dragged through water. The officers led them to the first destination, an old house where Jiang Ti-Dieu had once stayed. The gate creaked open, revealing nothing but emptiness. Neighbors shook their heads, saying she had left weeks ago. Each word landed like a blow, draining Tuna's fragile hope. The younger officer made notes, his pen scratching softly, the sound too calm for the storm raging in her chest. They moved again, to another address whispered by an old acquaintance. Another door, another set of eyes filled with indifference. She was here once, but not anymore. Tuna's breath caught, tears threatening to spill. Alex reached for her hand, his thumb brushing the back of it in silent strength. The older officer paused, scanning the distance, then spoke with quiet certainty. "She will not stray too far. People always circle the places they once called home." His words hung like a faint promise, fragile yet unbroken. As the night grew thicker, the car pressed on. The road twisted through shadows, headlights illuminating fleeting fragments of bamboo groves, weathered fences, lonely paths. Tuna closed her eyes briefly, whispering Henry's name like a prayer. In that silence, pursuit became more than duty. It became the only thread binding them to hope. Inside a dimly lit room, Jiang Tidieu sat hunched on a wooden chair, Henry cradled tightly in her arms. The faint glow of an oil lamp painted her face in shadows, each wrinkle a scar of regret. She rocked him gently, murmuring lullabies half broken by sobs. The child stirred, his small fists clenching and unclenching, unaware of the storm that had drawn him here. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "You look just like your father did when he was small." The memory cut deep, dragging her back to the moment she had cast Tuna away. Pregnant, helpless, unwanted. Regret swelled inside her like a flood with no shore. She pressed her cheek against Henry's hair, seeking forgiveness from a child too young to understand. In her heart, love and bitterness collided. She loved this boy, her grandson, with a desperate intensity, yet every glance at him reminded her of the woman she once despised. "I chased your mother away. It was my fault," she confessed to the silence, her voice trembling. She kissed his forehead, clinging as though letting go would mean erasing herself. But beneath her tenderness lay a sharp edge. To her, Henry was redemption, a chance to rewrite history. She convinced herself that Tuna did not deserve him, that only a grandmother's arms could protect him from pain. The cries of the baby grew louder, echoing through the lonely house like an accusation. Outside, the night pressed close. In the distance, faint echoes of footsteps and voices stirred, a search drawing nearer. Yet Jiang Tidieu, lost in her own maze of guilt and longing, could hear only the beating of her heart against the fragile breath of the child she refused to release. The night had settled heavy over the village when a neighbor's words cracked through the despair. "I saw a woman earlier," he muttered, eyes narrowing as if recalling a shadow. "She carried a child. She looked like the one you speak of." Tuna's heart lurched, her pulse quickening until each beat felt like thunder. She gripped Alex's sleeve, the tremor in her body betraying both fear and fragile hope. The officers exchanged a brief glance, their movements sharpened with urgency. One sketched the directions on a crumpled page, while the other spoke firmly. "It could be her. We must follow now." Tuna's breath faltered. Alex squeezed her hand, grounding her with the steadiness of stone. Yet even his voice betrayed the strain. "Hold on. Tuna, we're closer." They set off again, headlights cutting through narrow lanes, fields stretching endlessly into darkness. Every corner passed without sight of Henry deepened the silence inside Tuna's chest. She whispered his name under her breath, as though the sound alone could bridge the distance. The car jolted to a stop before a cluster of weathered houses. A thin sliver of light flickered from one of them, faint but alive. The older officer stepped out first, his eyes fixed, his hand brushing against the radio at his belt. The night was filled with the hush of bamboo swaying, the rustle of leaves. The restless cry of an infant carried faintly on the wind. Tuna froze, her breath caught as tears blurred her sight. It was Henry's voice, thin, fragile, yet unmistakable. In that fragile sound lay both salvation and dread, for the line between rescue and ruin was now thinner than the thread of her breaking heart. The officers approached the small house with measured steps, their shadows stretching long across the dirt yard. Tuna clung to Alex, her breath shallow, eyes locked on the faint light trembling through the window. Then came the sound, Henry's cry, sharper now, slicing through the night like a blade of truth. Her knees weakened, But Alex steadied her, whispering, "Stay strong. We're here." The older officer knocked, firm but controlled. Silence answered first, then the creak of wood as the door shifted open. There stood Jiang Ti Dieu, her hair disheveled, her arms wrapped around Henry with a grip carved from fear and desperation. Her eyes glistened, meeting Tuna's gaze across the threshold, a collision of past and present, of wounds still bleeding. "Give him back," Tuna's voice broke, trembling yet fierce, her arms stretched forward, yearning, but the older woman tightened her hold, shaking her head violently. "He is mine too," she rasped, tears streaking her cheeks. "I lost everything once. I won't lose him." The officers stepped forward, their tone calm, coaxing, offering words meant to bridge the abyss. Alex's voice joined theirs, low but steady. "This isn't the way, Ba. Henry needs his mother. You cannot heal the past by stealing the present." The room thickened with tension. Every breath weighted, every silence louder than words. Henry whimpered, his small cry filling the air with urgency. Tuna pressed her palms together in pleading, her tears falling freely. The officers held their ground, patient yet unwavering. In that charged stillness, the battle was no longer about strength, but about surrender, the fragile line where love turns into release. The room quivered under the weight of silence. Jiang Ti Dieu clutched Henry closer, her arms trembling as though holding him was the only thing anchoring her to the earth. Her eyes, swollen with tears, darted between Tuna's face and the officer's steady presence. In her mind, echoes of the past returned. The night she had cast Tuna out, the words that could never be unsaid. Tuna fell to her knees, her palms pressed together in supplication. "Please," she whispered, her voice breaking like glass. "He is my son. I cannot breathe without him." Her sobs filled the air, raw and unshielded, each one a knife twisting into the older woman's chest. Alex stepped forward, careful, his tone firm yet soft. "You love him, I know, but love does not mean taking him away. You can't mend what's broken by causing more pain." His words hung in the air, heavy but undeniable. The officers spoke quietly, their voices steady as river stones. No threats, only reminders of law and consequence, but also of mercy. They painted a path where Dieu could still see her grandson without being consumed by guilt. Henry whimpered, his cry fragile yet piercing. The sound shattered something inside her. Her grip faltered, and for the first time, her arms felt unbearably heavy. Tears spilled as she lowered her gaze, her lips trembling with words unspoken. Slowly, painfully, her arms extended forward. Tuna reached out, her hands shaking, her heart pounding like thunder. When Henry fell back into her embrace, her sobs turned to gasps of relief. Behind her tears lay both gratitude and sorrow, for even in this return, wounds remained, scars etched into the silence of a family divided. Henry's tiny body trembled against Tuna's chest, his cries fading into hiccups as she rocked him, her tears soaking his hair. She pressed her face to his, inhaling the warmth, as though to assure herself that he was truly here, that he was hers. Alex stood behind her, his hand steady on her back, silent but resolute, a pillar of strength in the storm that had nearly drowned them both. Across the room, Jiang Ti Dieu collapsed into a chair, her face buried in her hands. The officers remained nearby, their expressions unreadable, though softened by the raw ache of the moment. The older one spoke gently, reminding her that law would decide what came next, but his tone carried more compassion than reprimand. She nodded faintly, her tears spilling freely, her whispers fractured. I only wanted to hold him. I only wanted to make up for what I destroyed. Tuna turned, still cradling Henry, her voice hoarse but firm. You cannot heal by taking him from me. He needs love, not chains of regret. Her words lingered like smoke, fragile yet sharp. The officers guided Jiang Tidiu away, their steps measured. Outside, the night stretched endless, but in the farmstead a hush settled, part relief, part sorrow. Tuna and Alex walked out together, Henry safe between them, yet both carrying the weight of wounds that time alone could not erase. Under the muted sky, Alex whispered, "We have him back. That's enough for now." But in Tuna's heart, a quieter question remained. Could forgiveness ever mend what loss had carved? The answer lay not in tonight's rescue, but in the long road of love and resilience yet to come.
Một buổi chiều yên bình ở nông trại nhanh chóng biến thành cơn ác mộng. Tử Na ru bé Henry ngủ rồi vội vàng đi lấy củi. Khi trở về cô chết lặng, chiếc giường trống, con trai biến mất. Trong tuyệt vọng, Tử Na gào khóc, gọi tên, gọi Alex cầu cứu. Alex vội đến trấn an và đưa cô đến trình báo công an. Manh mối dần hé lộ, người bị nghi ngờ chính là mẹ chồng cũ bà Giang Thị Diệu, mang nỗi bận trong quá khứ. Bà ôm Henry chạy trốn vào rừng sâu và khóc vừa xin lỗi đứa bé. Buông xuống, Tử Na nức nở bên Alex, còn Henry nằm trong tay bà ngoại. Liệu manh mối nào sẽ giúp họ tìm lại con?